Ferrari's first shock of 2025, from championship contenders to struggling on the fourth row. What's up F1 fans? Today we're diving deep into the biggest surprise from Australian Grand Prix qualifying, Ferrari's shocking collapse. The team that was supposed to challenge McLaren for victories has instead found themselves stuck on the fourth row of the grid, behind not just McLaren and Red Bull, but also Racing Bulls and Williams. Let that sink in. But the million-dollar question we'll answer today is this: is Ferrari's qualifying disaster just a one-off issue with track conditions, or is there a fundamental problem with the SF25 that could derail their entire season? Stick around because the answer might shock you, and Ferrari's championship hopes might depend on it. Coming into Australia, Ferrari looked strong. Pre-season testing showed promising pace. In Friday practice, both Leclerc and Hamilton seemed competitive. But then Saturday happened, and it all fell apart in the most unexpected way. What you didn't see on the broadcast was the growing frustration in the Ferrari garage as both drivers reported similar issues lap after lap. There's also what Hamilton said privately to his race engineer after his final run that reveals just how confused the entire team is. Later in this video, I'll show you exactly where Ferrari lost their pace compared to their rivals, with sector-by-sector analysis that even some F1 teams haven't picked up on. Plus, I'll reveal the surprising technical change Ferrari made overnight that may have backfired spectacularly. Let's break down exactly what happened in qualifying. In Q1, both Ferrari drivers looked competitive. Leclerc was just 0.2s off the pace, with Hamilton adapting impressively to his new machinery. But as the session progressed, something strange occurred. While McLaren's Norris found nearly a full second between Q1 and Q3, the Ferrari drivers barely improved at all. Look at this progression: McLaren improved by 0.9s, Red Bull by 0.7s, even Williams found 0.6s, but Ferrari? Just 0.1-0.2s across the entire session. It's like they were driving a completely different track from everyone else. The real smoking gun? This onboard from Leclerc in Q3 shows the car looking incredibly nervous in the high-speed corners, with constant corrections needed through turn 9 and 10. Compare that to his own lap from Friday practice, where the car looked planted. Something fundamentally changed. "We didn't really follow the track for some reason," Leclerc said after qualifying. This cryptic comment points to Ferrari's biggest issue in Australia: tire management. Melbourne was unusually hot on Saturday, with track temperatures over 45 degrees Celsius (113 degrees Fahrenheit). Most teams were adjusting their approach throughout qualifying as the track cooled in the late afternoon. Ferrari didn't. Hamilton admitted it directly: as the track was dropping in temperature, our approach probably should have adjusted, but we didn't. The thermal camera footage tells the story. Look at the tire temperatures on Leclerc's car during his outlap compared to Norris. Ferrari's tires are already 10 degrees Celsius hotter before they even start their flying lap. By Sector 3, where most of their time was lost, those tires were completely overheating. But there's another layer to this mystery that no one's talking about. According to our sources in the paddock, Ferrari made a critical setup change overnight into Saturday. After seeing McLaren's pace on Friday, they gambled on a more aggressive setup to find performance. They lowered the rear ride height by approximately 3 mm compared to Friday practice. In theory, this should have given them more rear-end stability and better traction out of corners. In reality, it completely threw off their aerodynamic balance. With a lower rear ride height, the diffuser began to stall intermittently in high-speed corners, causing unpredictable downforce levels. This explains why Leclerc mentioned inconsistency as their main problem. The drivers would enter a corner expecting one level of grip, only to suddenly lose downforce mid-corner. This forced them to be more conservative, costing precious tenths that added up to their disappointing positions. Despite the disappointing result, there was one silver lining for Ferrari: Lewis Hamilton's adaptation to the team is progressing faster than expected. Being just a tenth behind Leclerc at a track as technical as Albert Park shows remarkable progress. Remember, Hamilton is essentially rewiring 11 years of muscle memory developed at Mercedes. Looking at the onboard footage, you can see Hamilton gradually adapting his driving style. At Mercedes, he would attack corners aggressively with sharp initial steering inputs. In the Ferrari, he's developing a smoother approach, particularly in the medium-speed corners. Hamilton himself was surprisingly upbeat. "To be that close to Charles in my first qualifying session in the car against a great qualifier was positive." The data backs this up. In Friday practice, Hamilton was losing most of his time to Leclerc in the high-speed corners, around 0.4 s per lap. By qualifying, that gap had shrunk to less than 0.1 s. The adaptation process is happening faster than anyone expected. Ferrari's struggles highlight a shocking reality about the 2025 season. The midfield has closed the gap dramatically to the top teams. Look at Yuki Tsunoda putting his Racing Bulls in P5, ahead of both Ferraris, or Alexander Albon dragging the Williams to P6. These weren't fluke laps, both drivers showed consistent pace throughout qualifying. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur tried to downplay the situation. The field is incredibly tight. 2/10 would have put us P4 instead of P7. While that's technically true, it misses the bigger picture. Ferrari was expected to be fighting for poles and wins this season, not scrapping for positions with midfield teams. Our long-run analysis from Friday practice suggests Ferrari's race pace might be stronger than their qualifying performance indicates. But starting from the fourth row severely limits their strategic options for the race. The big question now is whether Ferrari's struggles are Melbourne-specific or indicative of a larger problem. Albert Park is unique in many ways. Its smooth surface and flowing layout places specific demands on tire management and aerodynamic stability. The temporary nature of the circuit means it evolves dramatically throughout the weekend. Looking back at testing in the season opener, Ferrari showed much stronger form on different track layouts. The SF25's strengths appear to be good mechanical grip in slow corners, excellent traction out of low-speed sections, strong straight-line speed. Where they struggled in Australia was primarily in the medium to high-speed corners where aerodynamic balance is critical. If this is their weakness, tracks like Suzuka and Silverstone could pose similar challenges later in the season. However, there's reason for optimism. Many of Ferrari's issues appear to be setup-related rather than fundamental car design problems. With the right adjustments and a better understanding of the tire temperature window, they should be able to bounce back quickly. So how can Ferrari recover in the race? Their starting positions might be disappointing, but all is not lost. First, they need to nail their tire strategy. With both cars starting on the clean side of the grid, there's potential for a good start. Albert Park has a long run to turn 1, giving Hamilton and Leclerc opportunities to make up positions immediately. Our analysis suggests the one-stop strategy starting on mediums and switching to hards around lap 22 to 25 will be optimal. However, Ferrari might gamble on an aggressive two-stop to try to undercut their way through the field. Another factor working in their favor is that both Racing Bulls and Williams have historically struggled with tire degradation in race conditions. If Ferrari can fix their own tire issues from qualifying, they could still fight for decent points. Let's talk about the bigger picture. This qualifying setback isn't just about one race, it could have serious championship implications. If McLaren secures a 1-2 finish while Ferrari struggles to score significant points, that's an early blow in the Constructors' Championship. Even worse, it gives McLaren momentum and confidence heading into the next races. Our championship simulations show that if Ferrari can't recover quickly from this form, they could find themselves in a three-way battle with Red Bull and McLaren, rather than being clear frontrunners as many expected after pre-season testing. For Hamilton personally, these early races are crucial for building confidence in his new team. Despite the qualifying result, his adaptation is progressing well, which bodes well for future races. What can Ferrari do to fix these issues going forward? In the short term, they need to revert to a more conservative setup approach and focus on understanding the tire temperature window better. The good news is these are adjustments that can be made overnight. For the medium term, Ferrari has updates planned for the Imola race that should address some of their aerodynamic weaknesses. According to our sources, these include a revised floor edge and new front wing elements aimed at improving high-speed stability. The bigger question is whether Ferrari needs to rethink its overall car concept. The SF25 was designed with a philosophy focused on mechanical grip and traction, but if high-speed aero balance proves to be a season-long weakness, they might need to pivot their development direction. McLaren isn't hiding its delight at Ferrari's struggles. Team principal Andrea Stella was caught on camera with a subtle smile when Ferrari's qualifying positions were confirmed. Red Bull, meanwhile, is breathing a sigh of relief. Coming into the weekend, they feared being the third fastest team, but Verstappen's P3 was a result they'll gladly take given their own struggles. McLaren expected to be battling Ferrari this weekend, our paddock source revealed. They were genuinely surprised by the margin they had. It's causing them to question their own performance. Are they over-delivering or is Ferrari under-delivering? The answer is probably a bit of both. McLaren has maximized their package at a track that suits them perfectly, while Ferrari has failed to optimize their potentially fast car. So to answer our question from the beginning, is Ferrari's qualifying disaster just a one-off issue with track conditions, or is there a fundamental problem with the SF25? Based on all the evidence, this appears to be primarily a track-specific issue exacerbated by setup missteps and a failure to adapt to changing conditions. The core of the SF25 is still a competitive package. What we're seeing isn't a fundamental design flaw but rather growing pains as Ferrari adapts to a championship-contending mindset. They pushed too hard trying to match McLaren, overreacted with their setup changes, and failed to adapt their tire preparation strategy. The real test will be how quickly they recover. Championship-winning teams turn these moments into valuable lessons. If Ferrari can bounce back in the race and then show stronger form at the next few circuits, this Australian qualifying will be remembered as just a blip. History shows us that Ferrari has the technical capability and driver talent to recover quickly. But in this ultra-competitive 2025 season, they can't afford many more weekends like this one. Now for our race day predictions. Despite starting on the 4th row, both Ferrari drivers still have points scoring potential. Realistically, with good starts and the right strategy, Leclerc and Hamilton could fight back to P5 and P6. If there's any safety car chaos or reliability issues ahead, podiums aren't completely out of the question. The key will be the opening lap. If they can gain positions at the start and get into clean air, their underlying pace should be enough to move forward throughout the race. ## Scene 16, Call to Action, 35:01-35:30. Quick cuts between upcoming race preview footage, Ferrari garage preparations. That's our deep dive into Ferrari's qualifying struggles in Australia. If you want complete coverage of how this story develops during the race, make sure to check out our race analysis video dropping immediately after the checkered flag, Australian GP, full race breakdown and championship implications. Hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop your predictions in the comments. Will Ferrari recover in the race, or is this the beginning of a difficult season? See you after the Grand Prix.